Hey guys, and welcome back to another Disney book review. This time we are stepping away from the Twisted Tale series and diving into one of their standalone projects featuring the Muses from Disney's Hercules. This book was written by a Twisted Tale author, Farrah Rocchon, who is how I am acquainted with her. So we're going to have a little bit of expectation going into it. I really enjoyed her retelling for The Princess and the Frog in Almost There, followed by Fate Be Changed, which was a brave retelling. Did not really enjoy the Lion King Be Prepared book. Maybe that's because Lion King is like one of my nobody's allowed to touch this kind of Disney movies, but if you want to hear more about those, I do have a playlist with all of the Twisted Tale books that I have reviewed. So you can check those out at any time, but today we're just talking about Bemused. I'm just going to go ahead and point out that my drawing of choice for today is not one of the Muses. I can't say I was terribly inspired by this book. However, I really like the back cover that has like Hades on a vase. Sorry, not a vase, a vase. And I just feel like Hades always gets the short end of the stick. So I'm going to do Hades sort of in my own style, kind of. Like, my style can be relatively flexible, I feel like, in certain things. But I do want to work on digital painting just to improve more, because it's been a while since I've just done that instead of like doing comics or writing. Forewarning, I did forget to hit record a couple times, and digital painting is not like my main thing. I usually work in black and white, aka I draw my own manga style comics and I write, so painting is a little bit of a challenge for me anyway, and that's why I'm going to use this opportunity to kind of work on that and then play with some lighting at the end. At least that's my goal. That being said, I feel like I should properly introduce myself. My name is Hala. I am an author and illustrator, as well as a pretty big Disney fan. Enough said, like, if you guys are here, you probably are in sort of the same boat. But rather than just looking at me talk, I figured if I did a drawing during this video, we'd have a little bit more visual interest. So hopefully you enjoyed that. But let me know in the comments below if you like this format, if you liked the book, you know, who your favorite Disney villain might be, you know, just chit chat. We're here to talk. And speaking of talking, let's get into talking about this book. I'm going to start off by reading you guys the synopsis. The Muses narrated Hercules' story. Now they'll reveal their own gospel truth. Living in a quiet village with their overprotective mother, teenage sisters Calliope, Cleo, Melpomene, Terpsichore, and Thalia are talented performers with no audience. If Callie had her way, she'd pursue her dream of writing epic stories in the city of Thebes. But family comes first, and as the eldest, she'd never leave her beloved sisters behind. Following a disastrous public performance, their mother reveals a shocking secret. She is Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, and for nearly 2 decades, she's been on the run from her fellow gods, desperate to keep her daughters safe from their machinations. Before she can share more, she is kidnapped, and though the girls don't know it yet, the villain pulling the strings is Hades, fiery god of the underworld. Under Callie's leadership, the sisters embark on a journey to save their mother and learn more about their own divine origins. But the path ahead is filled with mythical trials and tribulations, and they'll need to rely on both their individual talents and the strength of their sisterhood to ensure that they ascend from zeros to heroes, or more accurately, heroines. Alrighty, so we both got to hear that for the first time, since I do skip those when I'm getting into a book. Mostly because the book is either referred to me or I am just judging it by its cover. So getting into the first thing of that, I wanted to make a major point of this review is the names. So there is a name guide at the beginning of the book. I do not believe it would be necessary or even provided in the audiobook, but I would assume it's there in the ebook. However, with Calliope, that is the full pronunciation, but it's shortened to Calli, which I cannot pronounce Calli. It has to be Callie. And I know that's going to hurt somebody's ears, and I apologize, but I will refer to her as Callie. The other name I'm going to point out is Terpsichore, who's the muse of dance, so she's one of the sisters, and she is not only shortened to Ree, so just the R-E-E, but like when it's her POV, that's also like her head title. Like you don't see her name as her POV title, it's just Ree. Just kind of something I thought about, but not gonna lie, because it's spelled Terpsichore, 9 out of 10 times I said Terpsichore instead of Terpsichore. And last but not least, good old Mother, goddess of memory, Mnemosyne. I only know it's pronounced Mnemosyne because of the pronunciation guide. However, when I see Mnemosyne, there was plenty of times where I was like, because you know how you read a name that's just something you're not familiar with, or just a general word, and it takes you out of the story. Well, even though I had a guide for this name, it went against how I wanted to read it. So I promise I won't go in the review here anymore, because I was also like, is it Mnemosyne? It's Mnemosyne. That's really all I have to say about the names. Now, this story is about the 5 muses featured in Hercules. Let's ignore the fact that there's supposed to be 9 muses in mythology. Like, we looked it up because I couldn't remember myself, and apparently there's 9, but since Disney only picked 5, we're going to stick with 5 in this book. However, we only do get 2 of them as written POVs. We get Calliope, Terpsichore, Ree, their mother Mnemosyne, who I think their mother's name is always spelt out. Like, she doesn't get a nickname. Which, for those who have like listened to my Twisted Tale reviews, there's a certain type of nickname frequency that just rubs me the wrong way. We didn't necessarily have that here, but Mnemosyne didn't get a nickname. Yet we felt like we needed to shorten both Calliope and Terpsichore, even in their POV head titles. And the last POV we got was Hades, the man himself. Am I going to be repping Hades for this book? I guess so. This is the energy we're coming into it with. In general, I don't like villain POVs in novels. It works in animation and TV where you get more visuals of what's going on. There's always something hidden, I feel like. But when you're in a written POV, you get so much more information that, for me, it takes out of the tension. And for a book that already felt very low in the tension scale, that was not great. As the book summary mentioned, their mother Mnemosyne is kidnapped after they put on this performance. So every year as a group, the muses put together a performance for their mother on her birthday. Allow me to pause, because how the heck do they know when her birthday is? And also, if she is a goddess, as is later revealed, does she even have a birthday? Is celebrating birthdays a thing in this time frame? It didn't bug me until like maybe halfway or so through the book when I realized, why do they even have birthdays? Like, is that a thing? So I did Google it. The best summary I can give you is that they didn't celebrate birthdays like we celebrate it. They did celebrate them for the gods and like important people. But again, I give you the question, how do they know when the gods' birthdays are? How was that determined? And especially, how did she, I don't know. It was one of those things where I'm like, is this too modern of a thing to like be in the context? But yeah, I guess to some extent they did celebrate birthdays, but it really was only for God. So maybe that should have been a hint from the beginning that their mom was a goddess. So the reason why she was kidnapped was because this big performance they put on for her this particular year kind of exposed their talents to their village, and that spread very quickly so that Greece and all the other lands and gods heard about these amazing performers. Just so happens that Hades recognized that these performers were possibly related to Mnemosyne. Not only does Hades recognize this, but he's the only god that has a memory of Mnemosyne, because when she left Olympus, she wiped everybody else's memories, and she even tried to wipe his out, but he had enough foresight to take a journal and pretty much write everything down in case she ever betrayed him and did that. So essentially, he knew she was out there this whole time and now has found her. Because she had like a project going with Zeus to create these beings that would like sing their praises and everything. I question how public that project was as we get more details between her and Zeus, but Hades was at least aware that Mnemosyne was sort of entrapped by Zeus, and she is a Titan. So she's not even just like normal goddess level, she's Titan goddess level. She didn't participate in the war that the gods had against the Titans, so she was spared and allowed to like live with them on Mount Olympus, but she felt trapped, escaped, and therefore was like creating her daughters every year. Again, not normal birth, so just creating them once a year instead of all at the same time. So I guess she could raise them a little better, I'm not sure. Creating them in secret, hiding out, and then now word is out that there's these talented girls. Obviously Hades being the mastermind behind this, you would expect, like, I feel like there's maybe too much comedy put into the Disney Hades. So having the POV as well, again, took a lot of the tension out. And when I say that the book for me already didn't hold tension, it felt very fast-paced in the sense that we would be hit with an element of drama or problem, but within a couple pages it would be resolved. Yet at the same time, simple puzzles, or at least things that should be simpler or more clear to the characters, took them a long time to figure out. For example, when they find Mnemosyne's journal, it mentions her relation to a goddess that has an owl. Like the muses themselves were created, inspired by this goddess, with the heart of a lion and the wisdom of an owl, or a bird of flight in the night. It's an owl. It's very clearly an owl. One of the muses, the muse of history, Cleo, is literally the bookworm. She can see a map and memorize it immediately. She has all these history facts, and they have been educated on the gods before. Yet she doesn't automatically go, hey, that one they mention is Athena. We can trust her. Let's go ask her for help. Instead, it's kind of who could it be? Like, is it Scooby-Doo? Take off the mask. We know who it is. I have to assume that this book was probably meant for maybe upper middle grade or something around that range, because content-wise, nothing was really very mature. And the best comparison I can make to it is if you watched the Disney original animated series for like Aladdin or like Hercules when he was younger, Emperor's New School, like any of those that were not technically canon, mostly canon, but definitely had some wiggle room because we're making an animated TV series out of it with a much lower budget, and things were like resolved episodically. Kind of that pacing and level of struggle. I don't think at any point during watching those shows would I was like, oh my god, something bad might actually happen, okay? It wasn't the trauma of watching Mufasa die, okay? It was, oh no, they got kicked out of school. But by the end of this episode, they will be back, so it should be okay. So really, anytime they did run into these trials, like they ended up in a labyrinth, they figured it out pretty quickly. It's pretty much, except for figuring out that Athena was the goddess that their mother was like the closest to, everything else happened very smoothly, in my opinion. Which isn't, again, it's not a necessary problem. Like, the story does make progress, but just as a 30-something-year-old reader, I've seen it, I know what to expect. This type of story just didn't hold any tension for me, so I was not fully invested. And I think one of the last main pieces or takeaways that I have on this book is that the muses' strengths, especially depicted in this story, is their song and their dance. But I'm going to emphasize their song. I'm the type of person that I need, like, I can take a song and visualize from it, but I can't visualize a song from words. In my head, everything felt really flat because it's like, oh, they're singing and they're doing this dance and now it's over. I didn't really have an image of what was going on, or I didn't get to really experience it. If it had been an animated TV series, this would have done really, really well because you could have your music, you can have dramatic sounds, you can have, you know, the dancing imagery to really give us form and pose and like invest us in this spell breaking or casting that we're doing. It's already something that is hard to translate into words, into a novel. And I don't think it really succeeded here, unfortunately. It's a great concept. This probably wasn't the medium for it, is what I'm saying. Overall, I would probably recommend this book to younger readers who are into Disney and who are into Hercules. All I'm saying is, for a story about muses who are patrons of the art, I did not feel inspired in any artistic way, which this story wasn't necessarily meant to be inspiring to us. It was just their journey to rise up and be the muses, the ones who sang about the heroes. Maybe I had too many expectations going into it. This is a problem. I know. I kind of was reading it to finish it at when I got like halfway or so, because I already figured out what was going to happen, what the pacing was like, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of character growth that would happen. Like, I knew because we were in Calliope and Rhee's point of view the most, we would quote unquote see their development more, which is Calliope learning to like step away from the family, find her own footing, and like let them know that without feeling bad. And then Tripsicori, like, she wanted to open her own dance studio, do things on her own as well. Both of them just kind of wanted to branch out. But Tripsicori also had a little bit of a romance with one of the village boys. But I say a little bit because it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't unbelievable because at least they knew each other for a while. But was I intrigued? Not at all. Not very much at all. And as expected, Hades did not succeed. Had no chance of succeeding because my final point is this book being about the muses becoming the muses before the movie Hercules. We already kind of knew what state the world was in after this. We knew the muses became the muses. We knew that Hades had not yet taken Olympus and he had been struggle bussing and he was failing a lot. Like, I didn't expect him to suddenly win, you know, and like throw me for a loop. I did not expect any major plot twists, and there really wasn't. Like, the plot twists that were in there were very predictable. So if you still would like to check out Bemused for yourself, absolutely, I recommend doing that and forming your own opinion. It's not a bad book by any means. For me, it was very middle of the pack. Probably not something I'm going to pick up and read again. It was just kind of fine. But go ahead, check it out. Let me know if you thought differently. I will be doing more of these Disney book reviews outside of the Twisted Tale series since I'm caught up with that release schedule. The next one I will do is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, and I just listened to this as an audiobook and can say, was intrigued. So keep an eye out for that review. That should be coming out closer to Halloween, as it is from Nightmare Before Christmas. Once again, thank you guys for watching, listening. Hope you enjoyed the speed draw, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!